Mm-hmm.
All right. Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh and so clean.
So fresh and so clean, clean.
That's right. I hope everybody who tuned in on YouTube got a chance to see the trailer because it was Outcast and they brought us into this May and this spring themed episode. Welcome back to the 51st episode of Whiskey, Wine, and Moonshine. I am Sojourner Verdad, and I am joined by my co-host, Lady Buddha, and Pretty Smart. How are you ladies doing this evening, and what beverages do you have?
I'm great.
Buddha, start with you. What are you
I'm,
drinking?
I'm just drinking a Barefoot Cab because it's cheap. And we've been doing taste tests with cheap wines, and so far this one consistently wins every time we try another one with it. So that's all I got. So yeah, but I'm just glad that I got a window open. I'm barely dressed. I feel excited. I'm great.
And that's great. And you have air.
What?
I said you have air.
Oh, well, a little bit.
You look naked.
I am. But no,
You
I'm
do
not.
look
I
naked.
got a rap. I'm famous for raps when it starts to warm up. So that's all I wear. Sojo can attest to this.
I remember when you used to run in the cool booty
Okay.
sport.
See how you get off topic?
I'm just
Off topic.
saying.
No one even knows what you're talking about, and it sounds scandalous, and it's not.
It is scandalous. It is scandalous.
It's not. That's why we're going on to Miss Smart, and she's going to tell us what she's drinking. We're not paying no attention, Sojo.
What, huh?
Miss Smart, what do you have?
I have Crystal Light and water, and there's just a dash of vodka in my Crystal Light.
I was about to say. I knew it wasn't just Crystal Light and water.
It could be. I don't like the way you're thinking of me.
Whatever. I'm just saying both of you have history. So
You already started. It's too early in the show to be
You
judgmental.
drank Coke 45 in public, so I feel like there's no place to judge.
Ooh.
Well, just so you know, I have water with cucumbers and mint. And then I also, Buddha, I made another sangria smoothie
All right.
with strawberries and pineapples, but I also, I put cheap wine in, so this actually is barefoot too.
Okay, see?
Yeah, it has barefoot Pinot Grigio. So
Barefoot,
that is in my smoothie.
Yeah.
Y'all, we forgot to celebrate our 50th episode when we had Ted on last week, but that was a milestone for us.
Yeah, where's a round of applause? Do we have one?
Did I download the sound effects? I'm not sure. Yes, I did.
Good for us.
Yay to I know, right? Well, I'm going to go ahead and get into the feedback before we get to the episode. Let's see. I'm going to start with iTunes, where if you leave us a 5-star review, not only will we be eternally grateful, we'll also read your comments live on air. So here is what we have most recently, because we keep forgetting to check. But John Garcia actually wrote this in April, but I want to read it to
Look, May just started. May just started.
That's true.
He gave us 5 stars and said, wonderful, and he says, such an intellectually stimulating podcast with a sprinkling of whiskey's kick, wine's calm, and moonshine's strong truth. Yes. So thank you to John Garcia. And then we got a 5-star review from our podcast granddaddy, Rod, over at the Black Guy Who Tips, and he called us Black Podcasting's Charlie's Angels. Says, Lady Buddha, Sojo, and Miss Smart are all so smart, thoughtful, and funny. They hit the ground running with their podcast and consistently put out a high-quality product every week. The show is organized while not being rigid. It's thoughtful without being a downer. It's good to hear a show with genuine people who aren't just trying to find an angle to raise their brand. I wish these ladies much success, and if you're reading this review, you need to add them to your rotation immediately.
Wow. How beautiful is that?
I know, he said organized without being rigid, and I don't really feel organized right now. But thank you, Rod, for that feedback. And then to go on to our Stitcher reviews, because you can also do 5-star reviews over at Stitcher. And we have a review from Courtney. And Courtney, I have no idea how to pronounce your Twitter handle, although I always spell it correctly. It's spelled ZEITGEISTRESS. So what is it? Zagitrus? Zagitrus? I don't know. But anyway, Courtney, she says, I love this podcast. They host their show on Google Hangouts most Tuesdays. Check it out. Intelligent, funny, classy, and beautiful. They make me want to be a better woman. Make sure you check them out. So thank you, Courtney, for that. I'm going to give everybody who left us feedback a round of applause, because that really makes you feel good, you know, when we're reading stuff. Yeah, that was cool. But I just want to tell everybody to help us stay #1 on Podomatic. Currently,
in our category.
Huh?
I said in our category.
Yeah, in our category. And I don't know if y'all checked recently, but we're currently #2. And every week, y'all know, we go between 2 and 1 with that same shaman dude. So his last episode was about mind viruses, transparency, surveillance culture, and having sex on Google Glass. So now that does sound hella intriguing. But we are just as interested too. So please spread the word about the show, and definitely help us stay #1 in our category. We're only 7 minutes in, and I'm sweating, so I just want to tell everybody.
I was about to say, and you're whispering, but you sound good.
I'm whispering because I'm outside, and
you don't want to overexert us.
I was about to age you about that, so I'm glad you pointed it out.
But listen, so for people who are listening to the podcast and not watching, those of you who are watching, you can see a tree and a fence behind me. I am on my patio because my air conditioner is broken again, much like our very first podcast when I got up and left.
The empty chair.
Right, but it's way too hot to be inside and try to do this, so I'm outside, except for it's still like 88 degrees.
It's hot.
It's hot as hell. And there is a breeze that comes by every couple of minutes, but still. So if y'all hear trains, sirens, birds, or whatever, I am not like when Shay B did that interview with Rod.
Bathroom.
Right, I am not
or some stuff.
I am outside on my patio, and I'm whispering because I feel like my neighbors are listening to me podcast.
Oh, they are. They are.
Don't say anything ratchet, and you'll be okay. Can you do that?
Because I am a quiet, good neighbor. I don't put up any fuss. So
outside.
Inside too. Anyway. But yeah, so that's why I'm like sweating and stuff. If y'all are watching. All right. So. Still going on with, our feedback and all that stuff. Just want to tell everybody to join us on TuneIn Radio if you enjoy online radio streaming and you use your TuneIn app. You can also save us in your favorites. And I do see Jeffrey in the chat where he says he agrees with Rod and he says hi to us. So hi, Jeff. And he says we are all smart, pretty smart and educated. And he also, I put a little note to everybody to spread the word about the show and told y'all to put it on your social media pages, and he said that he will. So thank you for that, Jeff, for helping us spread the word. Tell all your friends.
Yeah.
So hold on, let me get this out of the Q&A, and then we can move on to one of our Facebook questions. Buddha, you put a question up in our Facebook, on our Facebook page.
I did. Let me try if I can log in. You know, I had technical difficulties right beforehand, so I'm thinking I find it while you're talking about it.
Okay. Oh, y'all, Mama Sojo done logged in on Skype. Lord Jesus.
You know what? Go in and change your password. Sometimes you have to do that for your parents. You change your password so they can't get into stuff.
Oh, ratchet. Okay.
So not only will we have birds, lions, tigers, and bears, we might have Mama Sojo trying to Skype. But no, so you did a WordPress prompt. I see you do these a lot on your regular page. Is this something that you're getting from your blog settings? Like, where are you coming up with the prompts from?
Yeah, WordPress has like a post of the day to kind of give you inspiration if you want to blog about something and you need a prompt. And even though a lot of times I don't actually like their prompts for me, sometimes I find them interesting and I would like to know what other people think. And so this was one of those times, actually the last couple of days, they had a couple of interesting ones. So today, or yesterday, I posted the one that I received, which was who was or is the greatest teacher in your life? And I just added classroom or otherwise because I wanted to make sure people kind of thought outside of the box. And then what did that person teach you?
So we had feedback from Hustle Crow, who I feel like we always talk about friends of the show, and he's
Yeah.
like not just a friend of the show; he's a friend in the chat because he's always joining us. He's a little late today. It's
I
80 minutes.
know. What's
You ain't in
going
the chat to
on?
get your shout out, Hustle. But yeah, he's always in the chat contributing, and so he answered probably his government and American history teacher in ninth grade, Mr. Banks. He said after he taught us the Maryland functional test, he was never on the lesson plan.
I like it. I like it a lot.
He always put us on the current events and how it pertained to black folks. He opened my eyes to something as a 14-year-old punk. So, Hustle, you did admit you were a 14-year-old punk. So,
Bookmark that. Bookmark that. That's gonna mean something later.
right. So that was his. And then Evo, who hosts the League of Shadows podcast, and he's a friend of the show, he said the Britons. Mr. Britton taught 7th and 8th grade English, and Mrs. Britton taught pre-algebra and algebra. Neither of them would let me or let my ego of being too smart get ahead of what I was supposed to be doing. And he said they both challenged the shit out of him. So, definitely shout out, and especially since I think this is Teacher Appreciation Week. So definitely a shout out to Mr. Banks, who taught Hustle Crow, and also the Britons, who taught Evo. So we just want to give a shout out to them. Ladies, who were your biggest teachers? Buddha, this was your prompt. You said you don't normally want them for you. So did you even think about the answer?
I did. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was Leonard Brothers when he was on, who talked about the fact that he's not really good at kind of ranking things or who the best, or most important something or this or that or the other. And so I'm the same way, but so I have two answers. The first one is really true, which is it's not really a person. It's just kind of life, right? So age and experiences. I feel like I could point to a long line of people that really helped me grow in pivotal ways at different points. And so the second answer is you, Sojo, because you're one of those people who helped me grow at pivotal points. It's true. I was thinking about it, and I think about some of the chats or like DMs or whatever we used to do back in the day, especially when I was in Florida. But I just feel like I thought about a lot just based on things that you said that either you were already doing or had been thinking about, and it kind of challenged me to be more creative about different things in my life. So I think it was really helpful. So thank you.
Oh, damn, that's kind of awesome, because like I've always thought of you as like one of my like friend role model things, because you're like, ever since we were younger, you always seemed like you had it together, or you were, focused and all this stuff. And I'd be like, damn. Oh, you know what? My mom used to say that about you. Nicole is just so focused. She did.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think I want to be like you when I grow up. So that's cool to hear. But you know what? If y'all could see Miss Smart making faces right now while we having our little love.
Because there are birds literally outside my door hanging out on the damn fire extinguisher, the sprinkler, and they're making a lot of noise, and it's so fucking annoying. Anyway, go back to your soft cuddly point.
Shut up.
Well, mine is kind of a combination of everyone, but I couldn't.
I said, we'll pause on the Love Fest and give a shout out to LB. And he says, Soldier's outside, Buddha is faux nude, and Smart has the long flowing locks. It must be another WM Tuesday night. So what's up, Leonard Brothers? Smart, do you have anybody that was a great teacher to you?
Yeah, and I've mentioned her several times on Twitter. I think she was both 6th and 8th grade. Reading and English teacher or something of that sort, Willie Gibson. She basically gave me skills in 6th grade that I still use today. not just as far as education, but basic life skills and interacting with people. The other, there's another separate set, and I think Hustle Crow had a couple that was married. I have a couple, the Yees, that taught in my middle school. And Willie B. Gibson was middle school too. And the Yees, it wasn't necessarily their class or style of teaching, but whenever I think of them, I think of how blessed we were as children at that time, because we actually had creative video classes. And the assumption was that enough of us in the classroom, our parents at home, we had video cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, 86, 89-ish, when it wasn't a common thing. So thinking of them always reminds me of just how blessed my friends and I were at that time. So
it's interesting because people are naming educators like Evo and Hustle Crow, and I'm about to name an educator as well, but the lessons don't necessarily have to do with the curriculum.
Exactly.
And mine is, well, first of all, shout out to the brilliant poet, writer, rapper, Killer Mike. Shout out to Kaya Heights Elementary School and the upper playground, as he usually says. But my person is Dr. Sharon Pritchett, and she was my kindergarten teacher.
Aww.
And she was the first person to actually pronounce my my government name correctly, because it can be pronounced like a boy's name. And so whenever I was, in a public situation where somebody who didn't know me was about to say my name, they would always mispronounce it. So of course, first day of kindergarten, you're expecting just this embarrassment, first of all. But she had already taken the time out to find out how to pronounce my name. So then when I was in kindergarten, I already knew how to read and, all of this stuff. So I would take classes a couple of grades ahead of me, and I used to get bullied. They used to beat me up, and anyway, whole bunch.
You learned it? Is that where you learned it?
Shut up.
Ooh, good one.
But what I did though at first was that I used to play sick all the time so that I wouldn't have to go to those classes. And at first people would believe me, but then of course, she kind of wised up or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she came over and she pulled me in her lap, and she told me to never be ashamed of being bright and to not shrink to fit to mediocre expectations. She used that phrase, mediocre expectations, to a 5-year-old.
Aww.
But she is just totally awesome. She retired a few years ago. I actually spoke at her retirement celebration. And one thing, and I guess I should know that, being an adult, educators are a hoot behind the scenes.
Right.
Because I was able to kick it with my old elementary school teachers, and they are a mess. But, all of them, as I was sitting and watching them, I thought about, just like you said, Miss Smart, those life skills that they taught us, or those things that were outside of the box, the expectations that they had of us. So those things were my greatest teachers. Let's see. Jeffrey says that his teacher, my teacher was a good teacher I knew in school, was my first grade teacher, Mr. Sweeney. So shout out to Mr. Sweeney. And then Linda Brother says, damn, I think that's the first review I've ever heard from Rod. That's what's up. Y'all doing it big. I want to be like y'all when I grow up. Yeah, Rod, when I first read it, because the two of you, I read it live to you guys on air. That was your first time hearing it. So when I saw it the other day, I just got all like misty-eyed. I was like, dang, that was some really good feedback. So it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, we do love Rod. So, y'all listen to the Black Guy Who Tips, support it. Y'all already know all that good stuff. And please subscribe to their premium shows, because the premium shows are the bomb. Sometimes I go back in their archives and catch up on stuff all the time. So, the next thing we have is, of course, our Audible plug. I did not read the sponsorship before the podcast started, so I am going to take a minute to read it now. It says today's podcast.
Let me read it.
Okay, cool, because you're going to do the book. Okay, go ahead.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/whiskeywinemoon. Over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
That was great, Buddha. And so what we asked you guys a couple of weeks ago, and this was when we had Leonard Brothers on the show, that was episode 49, which was the miseducation of the Negro. We basically did a mini book club, kind of like talked about our favorite books and, you know, all that stuff. And that's the first time that we gave the Audible plug. And when we asked people what their favorite books are, even after the podcast, we still kept getting feedback from people about their books. So we decided to do a Pinterest page where we are basically tagging the books that we read, and then also you guys' suggestions. So I just want to read a couple of the suggestions that some of the podcast listeners have given us. Hold on, I see y'all giving me messages. Wait a minute.
It's nothing. Go ahead and tell.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Can you see?
Yeah. Okay.
The first suggestion that we had was from Michael Young, listener of the show. He gave the book Mo Meta Blues, which is The World According to Questlove. So we did pin that on our Pinterest page, which is, by the way, pinterest.com/Whiskey Wine Moon if you guys want to find it. Crystal, who is Twitter at SMG629, she gave us Flip, the inside story of TV's first black superstar, which is, of course, about Flip Wilson, and it's by Kevin Cook. And then friend of the show and also podcaster, website person, all this good stuff, Two Fish Terrelin. She's over at diggingdiscography.com. Buddha, you're about to actually talk about this author. You got to pronounce her name for me again.
Tananarive Due.
Tananarive Due. She actually gave that author as a suggestion. Yes. So we pinned one of the books onto our page. But before we talk about the book that you're reading, I just wanted to let you guys know that you can catch Two Fish over on last week's episode of Chonilla. She was on Friday night, and she is an absolute hoot. She was also, along with Leonard Brothers and I think a couple of other people, they were on the 50th episode of What's the Tea with Nick, Jew, and Reggie. So if you guys want to hear Two Fish, if y'all want to hear LB, definitely check out What's the Tea, and then also check out Two Fish Terrelin on Chonilla's last episode from Friday. So let's talk about Tananarive's book, because that was one that you kept texting us about.
Mm-hmm. I know. I did y'all like that with Pearl's book, too. Tananarive writes what we call speculative fiction, which is a big umbrella term that includes science fiction, fantasy, horror, all these kinds of things that are not realistic fiction. So it could be set in the future, it could have magic elements, things like that. And so I think that before now she was known for her African Immortal series, which includes My Soul to Keep, My Soul to Take, and a few others. But right now I started reading, and actually I finished today because I couldn't help it, The Good House. And I heard about that book just because I was watching some of the materials from the Octavia Butler event that she hosted at Spelman, and several people mentioned that book. So I was like, well, I'm trying to get into speculative fiction, and so let me read this book. And I started reading it, and after I got a little ways in, I couldn't put it down. It's a horror book, so it's scary, and I wasn't really expecting to be scared, but it scared me like Amityville Horror scared me back when it first came out when I was a little girl.
So wait. So The Good House, is it about a house? Like what's the plot?
Well, it is about a house, and let me think what I can say without telling major plot points. It's suffice to say it's about a house and a magical lineage. So you have kind of a priestess at the head of the line, and some decisions that she made over time and how those played out through her descendants.
Okay.
And so then it kind of, the beginning and the bulk of the book takes place in the present day, and we kind of find out through flashbacks and kind of a complicated story structure where she's going forward and back and telling from, we see multiple different perspectives, what happened to get us to right now, and how is this character, the main character, Angela Marie Toussaint, how is she going to get out of it, and, is the house truly a good house? And why or why not, So anyway, it was really well done. But too well done.
You said that you wish that she would have written American Horror Story Coven. Like if she had a part of that you probably would have been more
Well, yeah, because it was what I thought American Horror Story would be. And when I say that, I mean, when I started reading the book, it just popped into my head after a couple of days, like, ooh, the way that I feel scared about this book, and the way that the one of the original ancestors, speaks in Creole and kind of reminded me of some New Orleans flavor, even though the book isn't set in New Orleans. I was like, ooh, she probably would have been a really good writer for that, because it's not that it's gory, and it's not like over the top spooky. It's kind of the magical elements and the way she builds suspense that makes it spooky. And so, but just when I thought that, later on that day when I kept reading because I couldn't help it, that's when I saw her mention Papa Legba, who ended up being a main character who was a caricature and poorly done. Papa Legba was not a coke addict in the Good House. He's not got his long fingernail. He's not sniffing people. He's not dragging them to hell all the time. He is kind of this gatekeeper into the spirit world, which
like
is
he was supposed to be on the show before they made him into a cokehead, right?
And so we do find out that one of the ancestors did live in New Orleans for a time. So I was like, see, I knew it. And so kind of all these elements that fit in. And so one of the main characters, one of the main ancestors, practiced voodoo. And so she, at the very end, in her acknowledgement, she gives you all these actual books, real research.
That we were looking for during the show.
Yes. And she tells you where to go find real research about voodoo if you're really interested in it. Anyway, so it was brilliantly done, probably too well done, because at times I had to take a sip of some wine just to calm down a little bit and just relax. But it was really well done. But I told you about it, and you started looking for it on Audible.
Yeah, I did, and I actually found that it is on Audible, which I was like, oh, that's perfect, because you're going to talk about it, because that's on Audible.
Y'all go listen to the book, because I really, I had to stop every time I actually had to go read, drive somewhere, because you can't read and drive on your devices.
But you can listen to it if you get it on Audible. You can listen to it in the car.
Right. And I wish that I had, because I wanted to hear how some of these, I wanted the story to continue. And actually, that's what I do a lot of times. I'll buy a Kindle version of the book, and then I'll get the whisper sync that you can do, or you can get the Audible version of the book, and it'll pick up wherever you left off. You can listen or read it, and it picks up. And I do that a lot. And so I don't have to, figure out where I was. It just continues the story, so I can just kind of go through a book very fast that way.
Well, definitely, you guys. Since the book is already on Audible, and you sold me. I want to read it.
Go read it.
But if you guys could support us by going to audibletrial.com/whiskeywinemoon, and then you actually get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. So if you guys want to check that book out, then it is there. We have got a couple of other people to join us in the chat, and I want to give a special shout out to Ashy3 Classy from Astronauts Podcast. Where are the sound effects so we can do the round of applause? And he is definitely a friend of the show. Now, I just lost his comment. Uh-oh, okay, here it is at the bottom. Okay. Yeah, it keeps moving. And he says, are you all interested in satire? If so, there's a way old book called How to Rent a Negro by Damali. Is it Ayo or Io?
Ayo.
Ayo? Okay, and he says that he really enjoyed it. Actually, we will add that to our WW Empire Reads, because we really just want just a wide range of book selections, not just us, but also, people in the Black Podcast family. So that way, if anybody's ever thinking, hey, I'm looking for a new book, you can get, a whole bunch of suggestions. So we'll give you a shout out when we add.
Wait a minute now. Let's also point out that over on the Black Guided Tips, they're doing a book club, and I believe the book we're reading is Food Stamp Holes or something.
Food Stamp
Bitches. Excuse me. Okay.
What's it called?
Food Stamp Bitches.
It's on Amazon.
Okay. But is it on Audible? Because
yeah, we need to check that. And then Leonard Brothers actually answered the question about the teacher, I think, that you guys were talking about, and he says favorite teachers, Mr. Holt in high school. He was an awesome teacher in general, but one of the things I remember him saying was that getting college degrees are really designed to show future employees that we have the ability to learn. He said, hold on, because he's got two more. He said to always challenge the sources of the info we get from other people. They said it's important to do our own research. That, in addition to the curriculum, and always stuck with me. Oops, I think I read. Ooh, I read it backwards. My bad. It says people want to know that you are smart enough and quick enough to be able to learn what they need you to do for them. Also, Dr. Brookins and Dr. Cambone in college, they were two of the Africana Studies teachers I mentioned before that taught us to always challenge the sources of the info we get from other people. They said it's important to do our own research. That, in addition to the curriculum, always stuck with me. So that is from Leonard Brothers.
All right, Leonard had a lot to say. Go LB.
Yes, he did. I wish he would have put 1, 2, 3 on the comments. I would have read him. And then it says, Jeffrey says he knows that Two Fish was on Shonilla because he was there last week.
Woo,
So there's that. Okay, so let's see. Let's go into our theme. Our theme was Spring Has Sprung, and y'all, it's starting to get dark outside.
I know, because you see, I don't have lights on, so it's like all of a sudden like, I'm going to have to put this out.
To be podcasting in the dark, I have my patio light on, but it's not really.
You're going to get torn up by mosquitoes.
But so spring officially started on March 20th, but we've kind of like been in suspended animation with this spring thing because the weather has been so funky. It's been hot, it's been cold, and that's actually one of the reasons that I'm kind of hesitant to get my AC fixed right now, because I was looking at the weather report, and by this weekend it's going to be a little chilly again. So, how are you guys feeling about spring so far? Like, does it feel like spring to you yet? Well, we know Buddha's naked. But
I've been running. So that's the thing. So the last time I ran was March, November. And I normally kind of, take it in when it's cold in the wintertime. I don't run as much in the wintertime. And then I start back for real when it warms up, which is usually by spring. It's cool in the morning and it warms up. But this time, I couldn't even start until like mid or late April. And even then, I was still cold in the morning. I ran the other day, and I was still cold in the morning in May. So, it's promising. Like today, it was in the 80s. But this weather has been, actually, it's been sucky since I moved. It's never really been the right warmth. Like even in July, it's usually sweltering here. But I don't want to get too far off with global warming, climate change, whatever. But it's cold. I don't like it. But I'm glad right now. I'm grateful. I'm grateful right now. So.
Yeah, I'm cold-natured, so I actually don't mind the heat. But at the same time, it's like I just wanted to do one thing or the other. I just need to know whether or not I need to break out my summer gear or keep my winter gear, in check.
I would say, so you guys are saying wine, 80 degrees. Today,
No. The wine is for the 50. We're not whining about the 80.
Okay, that's fine. I'll allow it. Because,
it's not supposed to be 50 in Georgia in May.
Exactly.
Well, it's usually not 50 here either in May. It's usually not 60. Like we have a week of transitional weather, and then it's hot. Like we don't have necessarily spring. But I think aside from the temperature doesn't really anger me so much as the pollen, because as someone right, I suffer from allergies, and actually it's funny because I went to the store today. By the way, you know who's at Walmart in the middle of the day? Elderly people and elderly people. So I went to the store, and I had taken a Benadryl because that's all I had, and I went to the store to get some more drugs. And it occurred to me, Benadryl doesn't help allergies. It just puts your ass to sleep.
It puts you to sleep. I take a Benadryl every night now.
Right. It's nothing. They are selling that as a lie, and we need to rise up against that. But yeah, overall the weather doesn't bother me. What bothers me is this green dust I have on my car, and I have it doesn't matter what color my car is. And it's just so freaking annoying, because if you touch it and get in your car, then you have that closer to your face, and you're like, eyes running, sneezing. It's just difficult. And what pisses me off most, there's nobody we can write about this. We can't be like, this is the Obama's fault. This is Bush's fault. No.
But you know what? The pollen thing, like I'm severely allergic to pollen, so that's why I love being outdoors, but I don't really start coming outdoors till May. Like I love, this is usually the time of year when I go on my patio, I read, I do screen on the green where I, show a movie, or whatever, lay out in the grass, whatever.
I'm sorry, is that what we're calling it now, screen on the green? Your private screen on your private screen.
See how y'all want to tease. Y'all seen my spring on the green. Anyway, but the pollen really, really gets to me because I'm allergic to it. And then, like today, because I knew I was going to be outside, I walked out here and I hadn't cleaned off my patio furniture yet. It wasn't just yellow, it was green. Mm-hmm. And it's not just when you touch it and it gets on you. Like it starts like metamorphosizing and like multiplying like a gremlin, just where it's all on you. And like you said, there's nobody that you can really complain about to it except for God, and then you don't want to really piss God off, and then some more pollen comes. So the lawn guy came and mowed the grass and then came back right before the show with the blower to blow the grass and blew the pollen everywhere. So
disrespectful.
Right, very disrespectful. But speaking of, we got a whole bunch of stuff to cover today, but just speaking of spring, do you guys have any like springtime rituals? Because it is a change in season. Do y'all do anything different for spring that you would do during winter or anything like that?
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily have a plan of things to do except for change my closets, because even though I have a walk-in closet in my room, it still doesn't fully hold my stuff, like both seasons of clothes. But every year what I found is that I reassess some area of my life. So like right now, this year, I noticed this spring, I'm doing a lot of home stuff. Other years I've done a lot of social stuff or a lot of emotional stuff. So I can't say that it's plotted out, but I do get the feeling that I have to renew in some way.
When you say home stuff, do you mean like projects? I know you're crafty. And by the way, my headboard is on the way to you, so you can.
Right. That's from like 2 months ago.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, crafty. Like, I mean, one of the things I went to get to the store to get today was spray paint because Walmart had it on sale. So I'm lightening up, making my main. Actually, the whole house. A lot lighter in feel, so I don't believe in like if I have a lamp that is black that I need to go out and buy another lamp. No, that's what spray paint is for. So I'm doing that to a lot of different areas, from my crafting space to my office, my bedroom, all over. And so, this year it's more about tangible, I guess, revitalization. Whereas other years it's been more about other things. Like I said before, social, emotional, health-wise. A lot of my doctor's appointments were typically in the springtime.
Okay. Buddha, what about you?
I don't have a spring thing that I do. I tend to, kind of every season but then also every new moon, but then also every week. Like, I like to make the excuse anytime you can do renewal. That's kind of me, and so I don't have a springtime particular ritual. And actually, there's a lot of times when spring is actually a very difficult season for me. Like emotionally, I end up realizing that spring is hard for me because sometimes I'm moving in the spring. My mom passed away in the spring, so there's sometimes like emotional things come up. So I don't have a kind of a clear thing to do around there because I'm usually kind of just glad that it's warm, and then I can just deal with everything else that's going on. But I this year, it's not just because it's spring, but just because it's time. I have some cleaning to do. When I did move, I came back to my childhood home, and there were some things that I've cleaned a lot of it out, but there's still some closets, like dishes. There's some things that need to go away, and so I'm ready to do that now. Okay. So this is a good time to do that. Part of it is also in the spring. As a former teacher, that's when you have time. Your schedule changes. So part of it's just based on what's practical.
Lady Buddha, you said you're doing some stuff around your childhood house. Do you guys have free cycle there?
What is
I know that people do free cycle, but yeah, go ahead. What is free cycle? I'm familiar with it.
Free cycle is a neighborhood based, and most neighborhoods have them, at least up here, where you basically post some stuff you're trying to get rid of, and somebody just comes and gets it. You put it out, on the corner. You could leave it on your porch in the middle of the day. You could pick a parking lot to meet, and you just get free stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's the way I've gotten rid of a lot. I got rid of a dresser that I didn't need, a television stand, a lot of that kind of stuff. And I love it because I can also get stuff from it too. Like I need another chair for my vanity, and so I'm stalking the list to see when somebody puts up a good chair that I can maybe sand and paint and make new again.
And they get mad at you if they think you're just on there to find what you can get if you weren't contributing first. Right. I do know that. There's no, oh, let's see what they have, and then maybe I'll put up something. You got to start with, here's my offering. Yep. And then you can see what other people have. So I can think about that. I was just planning to donate those dishes and stuff like that, but I can see if there's anything that I can exchange or just put it up because I just need them out the house.
Or maybe give it to a teacher because, the early childhood teachers are often looking for utensils and kitchen stuff for their classrooms for, their little play areas.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, as far as I'm concerned, y'all know I celebrate half birthdays.
Right.
I had an ex that called it a pagan holiday. He refused to celebrate it because he was a Christian and it was a pagan holiday, but whatever. Usually on my birthday, and we talked about this on the 40 Before 40 podcast, I write a letter to futureme.org. And that's a website where you can write letters to yourself and you can get it sent on a certain date. So the letter that I wrote for my birthday is going to come to me on May the 10th. So at that time, I'll kind of be able to assess where I was in November, even remember some of the plans that I made, because I don't even remember what I wrote back then. But like Ms. Smart said, it's a time to kind of assess, where I am and see, where I want to be moving forward. I'm doing a lot of cleaning too, because of course you guys know my dog passed a couple of months ago, and so I'm still cleaning up from him, like bowls and his little bedding and stuff like that I hadn't really thrown out, and so I'm still going through and doing that. So that's really what I'm doing right now. But another thing that I did, I don't know if you guys ever knew about this, but there was a book by a lady called Mary Lane, and it's called Divine Nourishment. And she stresses the importance of eating locally and seasonally. And so she talks about this is the time where health-wise you're supposed to focus on your liver, detoxing all the stuff from the winter. But
wait a minute.
That means no drinking.
Right. See, we're right in the same place. Right in the same place.
Well, what she says, hold on, I'm gonna read what she wrote. She said, this is what you should be doing in the spring. Everything is green and light, and that's how we should be eating. Sprouts, leafy greens, cereal, grasses, and juices not only reflect the outward moving, expansive qualities for spring, but also tonify the liver and the central organ of spring, making it easier to purge toxins that may have accumulated over the winter. Lightening the body's load can also free up energy. So how during the winter you eat a lot of warm stuff because your body's trying to stay warm. During the spring, she's saying basically focus on more cool things, but also you can do grilling, and stuff like that. So I started eating seasonally maybe about a couple of years ago. And so I also, when we were thinking about this theme, I just realized that was one of the things that I do. It's starting to get real dark out here, y'all.
It is getting dark. We can't see you anymore, so get your light on.
I know I'm a dog child. Hold on, let me see if I can. Okay, can y'all see?
I do have that. While you're talking, I do have that book, Divine Nourishment.
Did I send it to you?
Yes,
I did.
And that's what I'm talking about. So that, and then this idea about writing a letter to your future self on a regular basis. That's what I mean about creative things that help me just kind of think about how I can approach life a little bit differently. So, yeah.
Oh, one other thing I want to say for those, and I said it a couple weeks ago about my obsession with general housekeeping. It's what I take great pride in that. There are several spring cleaning checklists and whatnot on Pinterest, so you may want to, Google that.
Don't tell Sojo that.
Yeah, there are. It's just some, little things you may forget to do. I know for me, one of my obsessions is walking around my house with a long arm Swiffer and getting the dust from the baseboards, in between seasons. Some people may not necessarily, obviously you have to get on hand and knee and really clean them, but to keep the dust, at bay during the year, you can do that.
Well, see, remember I was talking about baseboards recently with y'all, but at any rate, will you pin that on our WWM pod board? Because that would be great. And I just want to say, as an aside, I like the fact that we want to clean house and do all these other things that people think that degreed women might not do. Anyway,
yes, because I have like one of my pin boards is Home Sweet Home, and I just felt like this weekend I found a great way to clean my wood floors. Organic cleaner. It's like using like what's his name, Dr. Bronner's, or either the Castile soap, the almond plus vinegar, and it's like a whole little concoction. But anyway, I was so happy, cleaning my floors, and I know that's not the stuff I'm supposed to like, but whatever, it brings me joy.
Well, and it makes so this is the last thing I want to say, because whether it's a new moon or a new season or a new start or a new day, whatever it is, like that, especially if you're stuck in your life, but even just in general, it really gets the energy moving in a space when you clean the space out. So that's kind of a tip in general. If you feel like you are stagnant in your life, look at your surroundings and see what it is that you can organize or clean or shift or move out completely, and you can see that your life will respond in the same way. The house will feel different, the energy will flow differently, and your life will also flow differently in response.
And I would say also keep space in your house. Never have every closet, every drawer filled to the brim, because when you have it filled to the brim, there's no space, no opening for anything new to come in.
No, but that's true, and I will tell you, we were talking about one of my favorite books being The Game of Life. Basically, Florence Scovel Shinn was talking about the hoarding mentality. When you start to hoard things, you don't leave space for abundance and other things that you may not have even known that you wanted to even come in, because you're so busy thinking that you can't throw anything away. So, you definitely, like, that's not just a cleaning tip, that's a spiritual tip.
But the not being able to throw anything away, that's why I kind of mentioned free cycle, because you aren't throwing it away. You're giving your things that are no longer of use to you, or you're no longer connected to someone else, for them to also get great use out of it. So you're not throwing it away.
That's true.
What's that quote that I said? It was in a deck of cards that said something like, I now release the things that are no longer of value to me, and pray that they go to the person for whom that they are of value to right now. Something like that. Basically, look, it's free cycle, but for your spirit.
Okay, y'all, it's 8:48. Are we going to talk about Bring Back Our Girls, or are we going to talk about Saturday Night Live? Which one y'all want to?
I feel like we can do both. We can do it quickly. Maybe. I don't. Y'all talk so much, though. I don't know.
Well, let's see. She gonna say we wordy. Let's see. First thoughts about the Saturday Night Live thing. For those of you who weren't aware, Leslie Jones on Saturday Night Live said some stuff that got people all in a tizzy. She made some. Basically, what she said was, if she had been a slave back in the day, she would have been a breeder. And she prefaced it by saying, I forget how she worded it, but anyway,
basically, can't get a date now, but
she couldn't get a date now. But if she was back in slavery times with her build, she would be able to like baby LeBron, stuff like that. But go ahead, first thoughts.
Well, as I told you guys earlier, I didn't see it, I heard it, and hearing it was funny. But as we sat here, I
think Buddha's freezing.
Okay, so, but then sitting here, I played the video without hearing it, and that gave me a different perspective of what was going on. Right. So, just hearing it, it's pretty funny. I felt it was pretty funny, but seeing her, it made it less funny and somewhat uncomfortable, because I felt like she was speaking from a place of sincere hurt.
Mm-hmm. Buddha, are you still frozen?
No, she's playing with her hair.
Right, while she's naked.
I'm still here, but
Buddha. Okay, go ahead. What were you about to say?
No, go ahead, because of the delay. Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
Okay, I was gonna say the same thing. I read the comments first. I didn't listen to an audio. I actually read it first. And then when I saw it, I was uncomfortable because it was like, I don't know, it was like I was telling you guys, she was cooling it up a little bit. It was the facial expressions and, you know, all that other kind of stuff. I wasn't outraged like a lot of people were. I mean, but then when I read her response to people giving her valid criticisms, because like someone on Tumblr said, I didn't see anybody like saying cancel Leslie or cancel SNL, or you know how we kind of go above and beyond everything. I saw people saying, you
What's
know,
that behind you?
huh?
What's that behind you? I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Shut up. But you know, it wasn't that people were doing all that, but seems like she got offended by people being offended. Like she was saying, where was the rape, and called people idiots. Like she was like, you know, where is the rape, idiots, so on forth and so on. And I'm like, well, forced breeding is rape. I mean, you know, and whether or not you find rape jokes funny or whatever, you know, at least it's a valid criticism. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I wasn't offended, but I understood why people were offended. Like people who enjoy like the Medea kind of comedy, the overcooning it up, they might genuinely, you know, find it hilarious.
Let me ask you this: was it cooning because she was on national TV?
And that was the next thing I was about to say. It was like the uncomfortable moment, because the people who were laughing, from what I was hearing, were more, you know, it was like the guy who was what was it? The guy who was with her, the co-host or whatever. You know, he was like the white guy, like laughing at the black woman, you know, making the buck eyes and, you know, doing all that. That stuff made me uncomfortable. So, you know, I understood why people felt that way.
Doesn't that link back to her response about Dave Chappelle? Because one of the, you know, she had said essentially, you know, if Dave Chappelle had done this, there wouldn't have been that much criticism. But what you're saying about, you know, laughing with versus laughing at is, according to him, why he left the Chappelle show, because they weren't laughing with him. He felt like they were laughing at him.
And you know, the other thing too is, I don't think I agree with her in that I don't think if a man had made that joke that people would have been as offended. Like if you know, I give an example. You know, I love Saron Russell. He has this deadpan delivery, Southern, you know, whatever. If he had stood there and told the same joke, I don't think people would have, you know, had the same reaction.
I don't think that's true.
You think they would have had the...
Russell Simmons tried that already, and it was immediate backlash.
With the Harriet Tubman.
Yes, it's the same topic. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not it's not that person giving something from their perspective. In that particular case, he made a skit with a thing like I'm talking about her perspective. Like if a stand-up comedian had got up there and said, you know what, back in the day, I would have been a breeder. You know, a dude saying that, I don't think people would have had the reaction that they did.
You know, I would also add that, now thinking about it, if she had, and again, as I said earlier, my discomfort came in feeling that it was coming from a place of hurt for her, a hurt that is still continuing because she is single. I don't know that I would feel that way if she was married with children. You know, if she had said, yeah, you know, I'm married with children, blah, blah, and, you know, it took, you know, me and my husband, we didn't meet till I was 40 years old, blah, 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 and then said if I were, you know, if we were in slavery, I would have been done off at 14. Like, I don't know that I would, because I would feel like she's at a more pleasant place. It would make it a lot less uncomfortable for me.
Like she was still experiencing the hurt?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what made it uncomfortable, that she was still experiencing the hurt, and people weren't laughing with her. They were laughing at her.
And I felt bad, too, because when I actually saw her and I saw her perform it, I felt bad because I thought, well, I mean, you know, that I had some thoughts, you know, when I saw her actually perform it. So I do think that she's still experiencing some of that same reaction. But a lot of black comedy really is based on our history of dysfunction, hurt, and abuse. Like Kevin Hart's Laugh at My Pain, you know, we're used to that. We're used to making jokes out of our pain. So it was like she did that on, you know, on national TV, but it ended up touching a lot of people. So, you know,
and it could also be partially the fact that the fact that there was kind of this big campaign to have a more diverse representation, and I think that people felt like, we did all this work and then here's what we see, and then that's not representative. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there as a potential. I just didn't think it was funny.
No, you're right. You're
aside from all the whether we're going to have a cultural critique or was it historically this, that, or other, I just didn't crack a smile. I didn't do anything.
Either. I didn't either.
I did until I saw her.
I didn't. See, I didn't listen to it. I saw her and I didn't laugh at all. But to your point, Buddha, Jamila Lemieux, from Ebony.com actually wrote that today, exactly what you said. And she was like, this was supposed to be the point of a diversified cast on Saturday Night Live. Basically, so cultural topics could be handled tastefully, and kind of determining what passes the litmus test. Like that should have never gotten past black people, basically. But then I was like, I didn't have that high of a hope for a diversified cast anyway. Maybe that's me being jaded, but I didn't think that they would hire people that would actually stand up and say something like that, because I looked at the people they already hired. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't part of diversity being able to be offensive and not being overly critical or overly criticized, for your offense? Like, she did what I'm thinking is to some degree the equivalent of hey bro comedy versus white straight lace comedy. Like, can't we have a whole gamut of comedy? Like, that wasn't funny, but the same people who didn't find that funny, like the Beyonce thing, we can have like why not?
I think that's the thing. We don't have it.
Yes, that was the problem. We don't have it, and that was the whole issue, that we worked to get it, and then because this is the mainstream platform, right? Like, if you feel like you're invested in having diverse representation on mainstream platforms, then they feel like, well, we can just get that. That's just back to the same old thing, when the whole point is, can we get more nuance? Can we get a range of things? And so I don't watch Saturday Night Live aside from when everybody's talking about it, and then I go see that thing. So the last clip I saw was when Kerry Washington did Saturday Night Live. So I can't really speak to it in terms of more broadly speaking, but I do think that that's part of probably the argument is that we don't have that. So I think it would be less of an argument if we did.
If we had that, exactly.
But the assumption is, when we get these think pieces, the people who often write them feel like they are the alpha and the omega of blackness. Like, there may be black people who found it absolutely hilarious. I mean, like, hilarious even when they saw her. So I don't feel like
somebody wrote one of those think pieces, and I couldn't pull it up. I was trying to show
I just don't feel like, oh, because you work for a certain place or have a couple of degrees or a certain number of followers, you get to dictate, carte blanche. You get carte blanche in dictating what is an acceptable representation of blackness.
You don't. It's true.
You can complain, but to say, oh, we can't have that and she shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, kind of, I can turn and say, we shouldn't have single motherhood. We shouldn't have one-bedroom apartments with your children. I can say that, but who the hell am I to dictate that shit?
It's true. It's true. It's like, we should be able to have conversations, and I felt like even in her response on Twitter, I wish that she had been more open to the dialogue as opposed to just blocking people who were, giving her...
Well, yeah, I thought that was...
Yeah, I was like, people...
Because they know how y'all black Twitter people work. She know how y'all work.
But that's the thing. They weren't being rude to her. They weren't going... You know how Twitter goes in. They weren't...
I wasn't on that day.
But I did want to give a shout out. We have somebody new in the chat. We've got Khalil Burton, and he gave us 2 comments. He says, Google Plus is an amazing step for online broadcasting and marketing. Great video, ladies. Mm-hmm. And then he also said that he doesn't care for that type of comedy, honestly. So I did want to welcome you to the show. Mm-hmm. And Jeffrey asked, he said he's never seen Saturday Night Live. Is it good? And
no, I don't know.
I don't watch it, so
I used to watch. It used to be funny, but I found the blog post that was a pro Leslie Jones blog post, and I'll just read just a little bit from it where he says, because he's quoting from For Harriet, where there was an anti Leslie Jones piece, and so he talks about that, and he goes into Unfortunately, Kimberly Foster and many people on the tweeters didn't get the joke, which really sucks because I love for Harriet and all that it stands for and represents. As I see it, the commentary by Jones in the skit speaks to the plight of women in America. That would be that black women in America were valued more throughout slavery than they are today. And she wrote to him, yes, you get it. And so then I had a whole different reaction because I'm like, well, if that's what she thought that she was trying to get to and that was supposed to be something that we agreed to, I disagree with that on its face.
And that's not what she was talking about, because she thought that forced breeding wasn't rape. So I'm not going for that.
Yeah, she was like,
wait. Let's back up.
Okay.
So Lady Buddha, you're saying that she did not use this as her defense initially. She only came out with this defense once somebody else wrote it?
Yeah, I'm looking at her timeline, and he tweeted that to her, and she said, loved it. Thank you for getting it. Please repost this 1 billion times, laughing out loud. And that was a central thing, which is black women in America were valued more throughout slavery than they are today. And I simply reject that. The end.
But I guess my thing is that if that is your defense, why not
come with that from the rip?
Right, come out the gate with that. And I understand, things get less funny as you have to explain them.
Well, that means they weren't funny to start with if you have to explain them.
Well, they're not funny to certain people if you have to explain them. Now, as I said before, when I heard it, it was funny. When I saw it, it was like, ooh, girl, you probably got some skin lightener under your sink.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was
that kind of reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I wanted y'all to see it. That's why I asked if you saw it, not just read.
Well, and it's a visual show. They're based in visual comedy.
Yeah. Okay, bring back our girls. Let's talk about that, because we talked about, black women being, I guess what her defense was is black women being worth more then than they are now, blah, blah, blah. The Bring Back Our Girls campaign, do y'all want me to kind of give the background, or?
Yeah, go ahead, because I've been avoiding it, so you're going to catch me up.
All right, so in Nigeria, there were about 275 or maybe closer to 300 girls who were abducted from their school, and they were abducted by a group, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Boko Haram. The leader is Abubakar Shekau. It's a 12-year-old militant group, and the meaning of the word means...
Okay, wait, they're only 12 years old?
Oh yeah, but hold on. In this 12 years, they've done a lot of shit. The meaning of the group, the meaning of their group name means Western education is sinful. They've bombed schools, churches, mosques. They've kidnapped women and children. They've assassinated politicians and religious leaders. Like, they have a whole timeline of shit that they did in the past year alone, before they even got to those girls. So on Monday, the leader, Abubakar Shekau, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he released a video saying that he took your girls. That's what he said, I took your girls, and he plans to attack and kidnap more, which they did today. They actually went into houses this time and started snatching girls out of their homes. He repeatedly called for an end to Western education and said, girls, you should just go get married. He described them as slaves. And that was one of the problems that people had with the SNL skit, that you got a current situation going on right now,
right?
Making jokes about, whatever. So that was a whole touchy thing that people got into, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, education for girls is most certainly sinful if you do agree that they're property. So he, he also forced the girls to marry some of their captors for $12.
Right.
So these are some of his quotes. What do you know about human rights? You're just claiming human rights, but you don't know what it is. There is a market for selling humans. Allah says I should sell. He commands me to sell. I will sell women. I sell women. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The part that I did not add was that basically people were saying that the Nigerian leadership weren't really doing anything. The president failed to successfully search for these girls and find them. His wife, according to reports, didn't believe there was a kidnapping and initially accused some of the protesters for being a part of the group, and she ordered their arrests. But there's some conflicting reports because they say that she doesn't have the authority to do that, you know, X, Y, and Z. But anyway, it's a hot ass mess over there. We're at a point now where I think we're actually sending some people over to help try to find them, and I think the FBI is going to investigate as well. So, any thoughts on that?
Well, we know from research that educating girls is one of the things that improves countries economically, because an educated woman is less likely to have she's more likely to have options for economically sustain herself, and therefore less likely to have as many children, less likely to stay in bad relationship situations, all these things. Y'all can look it up. It's in the library. And so it seems to me like they're doing this under the guise of anti-Western education, but it's really, I want to keep the status quo. Let's not give these bitches no freedom. And
Right.
we don't want these little girls to even think they have the option of all that fancy book learning or doing anything other than breeding for us and being our property. Don't give them no crazy ideas.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with them thinking education is a bad thing. They just want them, they think of them as property, like they're theirs.
Right. Well, one thing that I, really appreciate is the fact that, people did kind of start to put pressure on using these social media tools, because it's interesting. Like, I didn't like the way people approached it at first when they would like tweet some of the outlets and say, why aren't you covering this? Well, they were covering it, and so you have to be really specific in what it is that you want done differently. So you can't say they're not covering it at all when they have articles on it. But it's true that when you look, I signed up for CNN alerts several years ago, and CNN alerted me to let me know that Chelsea Clinton was pregnant.
Also when Justin Bieber was speeding, because I got an alert.
Yeah, I got that.
They let me know that. But so they didn't let me know that the girls were stolen, and then for a long time they let me know how the people in Korea were doing. They let me know that a missing plane was still missing, and they let me know that a missing plane was still missing, and then they let me know one more time that a missing plane was still missing. Right. And so, as they started to frame it better, which is that, why do you have all these ongoing updates about stories and then there's no coverage about this? And so I like all the memes that are starting to come up to the front. But I saw an article on CNN today, and I didn't get a chance to.
I think that's the one you're about to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw one today that just mentioned the fact that this man who claimed responsibility said he's been doing this. He put out a video a year ago that said he was going to start doing this. He's been doing it all this time, and so that kind of starts to bring a whole different sort of questions and a different sort of kind of like, well, what's going on over there sort of response when this has been going on all this time, and what has been done, what can they do, what can we do internationally? So I think
that's why I asked that question earlier about whether or not, and I didn't know this what Lady Buddha said, but I asked the question about, whether this has been going on just to a lesser scale.
Yes.
But that's the thing, too, is that it's this terrorist group, like you said, it's been going on for a while, but it's not just that. Like CNN had the article today, I thought this was the one that you were going to say, about the Nigeria abductions, why it matters. They changed the title because that was an inflammatory title. But one of the things that they talked about was the ongoing problem that this group had caused. And the other thing, because I've heard people, and I've heard black men say, well, why are we talking about this? Why are you guys always tweeting about this? The game's on. Change the subject, X, Y, and Z. But one of the things is that they directly threaten the United States. And I'll give you a quote. It says, "Our strength and firepower is bigger than that of Nigeria. Nigeria is no longer a big deal to us as far as we are concerned. We will now comfortably confront the United States of America."
They know what they fucking with. Like, have they met Obama? Have they read anything about him? Because he clearly will kill people. He'll kill Americans.
But that's the thing, that they haven't been able to find this dude. They don't know how old he is. They say he's between 35 and 44. Is Nigeria not corroborating? Because quite frankly, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because right now they can tell me
what I got in my right hand. The American damn government can tell me you got your tablet in your right hand and a blue pen.
But I'm just saying that he has been openly making threats and doing this and being allowed to run amok for a pretty long time now. The girls, the publicity that the girls are bringing to this situation, actually, it highlights an even bigger problem, with the group. And, like how you asked earlier, has this been going on for a while? Well, my assumption before Buddha even talked about that article was, of course, we know what happens in some of these smaller countries, and some of the hell, we know what happens here in the United States. Slavery, rape, force, this and that goes on here.
Listen, I know what happens on the side of the road in Ghana. So, I'm not really shocked.
But I'm just saying, that some of the questions are, what can we do globally and locally? One of the things I think is that we don't ignore the situation and assume that it's going to resolve itself. They let the leaders basically get off with saying, well, we've been trying, we just haven't been successful. That's not good enough. If you abduct 300 girls from school and you can't find them at all, and now you got people going house to house. So I just think we keep pushing the story to the top. And yes, we can multitask. Yes, we can talk about this and the playoffs. Yes, we can talk about this and Love and Hip Hop. You know what I'm saying? Because people get to a point where they think that.
But the thing is that he doesn't necessarily have. There must be a large percentage of Nigerians who don't support his ideas because they sent their daughters to school.
Yeah.
Right. So. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. He supposedly it's about forced Islamism. Like, he wants more people to change the ways that they believe and to do different things, like you said earlier about the status quo. So, but I wanted to mention a couple of books that might be good for people, because this all reminds me of Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof, and it's about women and oppression and slave trafficking and sex trafficking and all those sorts of things. And actually, it's a book that years ago I did listen to on Audible. So Half the Sky. But then also I've seen a lot of press about Roxane Gay's brand new book, which is not about the same thing, but it's kind of a related topic. It's called An Untamed State. And she's talking about a woman who was kidnapped from her family and then repeatedly raped and sexually abused, and kind of the slow response and some of the sorts of things that happen, over the course of her ordeal. It's fiction, but versus Nicholas's book, which is nonfiction. So those two books might be interesting reading for people who want to just read outside around this topic.
Well, it's past 9. It's actually almost 9:15.
That's my bedtime.
Back to you with the cheers. Do you have any cheers, or were those your cheers?
Come back to me. Let me think and see, because I feel like I did have a cheers. But actually, I'm just going to give my cheers to Roxane, because she's a prolific writer. She's a feminist. She has another book coming out called Bad Feminist later this year. But the fact that her book was released today, Untamed State. So I think that's a good time for me to give her cheers. All right.
Okay. Smart, you have any cheers?
Often known as one who is quite humble, I would like to give my cheers to
I already know. Wait, what?
I said I'd like to give it to my damn self. And the reason I like to give it to myself is because I have tackled... Excuse me?
Girl, amen. Keep going, baby. Keep going.
I have had a rough couple of weeks where I was just mean and nasty, and I had to just sit with myself and say, what is going on? And get myself in some order. So I'd like to give myself some cheers for getting my own self in order.
Can we give you a round of applause?
I know.
Oh, yeah. And I'd also like to shout out Tahid Epps.
That's who I thought you were going to give to. That is who I thought you were going to give the cheers to. That's why I started giggling.
I saw his episode of Chelsea last night. Then let me just say this to the listening audience. So I don't really watch Chelsea lately, but my TiVo records it just in case there's nothing else on. So today, I'm minding my business. Nothing else is on. I turn it on to Chelsea. And let me tell you how Jesus blesses me.
Look at God.
Look at God.
Goodness.
It is one Tahid Epps on her show on the day Well, it was last night, but I watched it today. On the days I actually watch. That's how I know he watches me.
That is God watching over you, and that is God.
Or she.
You opened up, you know, yourself when you sat with yourself and got yourself spiritually together. That's for more blessings to happen.
Mm-hmm. Be blessed. Highly favored.
My cheers go to, I actually have 3 cheers. First cheers goes to Jada Pinkett Smith, who is currently doing a CNN documentary on human trafficking, and she was in Atlanta recently talking about the strip club environment. I told you guys about that, but I didn't send you the link, and I do want us to kind of touch on it at some point. But she is currently doing that documentary. I'm not sure when it's going to air. I wanted to give a special cheers to the founder of Circle of Friends Living Water for Girls. Her name is Lisa Williams, and that is an organization that I volunteer with. It's actually, well, you guys know that Atlanta is like one of the hubs for human trafficking, and so this is actually a home that houses girls who are in transition.
Oh, wow.
And so she came and did a professional development workshop, and I fell in love with her. And so I volunteer with the group, but they are doing a fundraiser. And so their website is actually www.cofcl.org, and you can get more information about that. But the money actually goes towards housing the girls, focusing on their education. When you meet the girls, they are not the type of girls that you would picture
exactly
in this lifestyle. When you see them,
wait, say that again, please. Say that again.
Are not the type of girls that you would think that are involved in this lifestyle. When you look at their eyes, and you know, I was with them maybe about a month ago, and you know, just talking to them, and they still had innocence in their eyes, and they were still kind of unsure about themselves. And do I go this way? Do I go that way? And so she's really doing some amazing things with them. So you know, I definitely wanted to give cheers to her. And then there is a website called chimeforchange.org, and this is actually a hashtag called Chime In, and it is for basically equality for women, and women not just, you know, in the United States, but everywhere. And I wanted to end with their slogan. It says education, because I thought it was fitting. Education, health, justice for every girl, every woman, everywhere. Because none of us can move forward if half of us are held back. So definitely, you know, cheers to them, and also cheers to the girls in Nigeria, hoping that you guys, or you ladies, return home safely. Yeah. So this has been another episode of Whiskey, Wine, and Moonshine, and you can find us on our website, which is www.whiskeywineandmoonshine.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Whiskey, Wine, and Moonshine. Our Twitter handle is @WhiskeyWineMoon. We are on Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and TuneIn Radio. Oh, I forgot. You guys' Twitter handles.
I'm at ND Collier. That's COLLIER. And you can also catch my blog at www.cocostudio.com. That's COCO Studios, singular, just one, cocostudio.com. Miss Smart.
And I am think_P_smart. That is my Twitter, and you can certainly reach me there. You can also catch me in these mean streets, in any craft store, in any given, you know, Tuesday, Sunday, whatever. Amen. You know, I'm in those aisles, you know, combing through those sales.
And my Twitter handle is @SOJOXOXO, and my website is www.feminyin, that's FEMINYIN.com. So we will see you guys next week, next Tuesday at 8 o'clock live on Google Hangout. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye. I gave him elbow and wrist.
Oh, ornery.
Live, because I can't turn the show off.
Are you serious?
I am so serious. I can't turn the show off.
It's all getting cut.
So ridiculous.
It's still on.
What are you for?
It's still live. Oh, Lord, we go. We might have to drop off and come back.
We need an intern.
Let's drop. It's not. It's not gonna
drop. Wait.
We're still live.
We are still live.
Yeah. So we just have to drop.
Okay. Everybody, let's drop.
Okay.